Get ready for the dictation. 5 seconds. Start. Mr. Chairman, I am very grateful to all the honorable members who have participated in the debate on this very important bill which relates to the improvement of the conditions of service of the working journalists. By and large, I found there was almost universal welcome for this bill. Of course, there were a few honorable exceptions which are bound to be there. As rightly pointed out by some members, the scope of this bill is rather limited. This bill, as would be seen from the note appended to the bill, has been tabled before this August House for a very limited and specific purpose. Therefore, it is not perhaps legitimate to raise all matters under the sun that relate to the whole field of journalism, the newspaper industry, freedom of expressions, etc. But sometimes it does happen that one feels such legitimates could be vividly highlighted only when one has a broad canvas and a big graph on which one can plot and say that the area covered is what it is and nothing more. Perhaps in this context, honorable members choose to refer to many extraneous matters which do not strictly come under the purview of this bill. That is quite confirmed that nevertheless we have conformed to the rules and regulations regarding the consideration of such bills, notwithstanding the importance of the issues raised by the members. I may perhaps not be quite within my rights to reply to the points which are not quite germane to the subject under discussion. As you are all aware, this bill has been introduced to deal with a stalemate which has been created with reference to the implementation of the recommendations of the two vague boards appointed to go into the service condition of the working journalists. I must tell this House that these two vague boards had not been appointed by this government but had been appointed by our predecessor government. These boards were in existence even when we look over the reins of administration. Therefore, I think it will not be quite appropriate to make the valuable time of this House in entering into arguments as to whether it was right to set up vague boards or whether some other method could not have been adopted to deal with the problems faced by the working journalists or whether the terms of reference for those vague boards were properly framed and all those things. All these are quite irrelevant in the present context. As I said, these vague boards continued by our predecessors had submitted various reports to the then government. They were in the nature of interim reports and were with the government of quite a long time, and no action had been taken on them by that government. As soon as this government came into power, almost within 48 hours of their taking up office, this government took up the recommendations of the board and expected most of them and also notified the interim wages. Under the present circumstances, I was rather amused and also distressed to hear an honorable member opposite saying that this government was a government of indecision. The honorable member for whom I have the greatest regard prefaced these remarks by saying that he himself was a journalist and therefore he did not want to introduce any political overtones in this speech on this bill. Nevertheless, in spite of one's professed intentions, it is very difficult to resist such temptations even for a journalist member. Perhaps that there should be reason for the honorable member to yield such a temptation, as he thought that would help him to use a few political gimmicks. Actually, it will not be so. Only valid point will yield fruitful results. So, I am unable to understand his line of argument that everything he pointed out that in his anxiety to appear non-political, he had gone into the realms of politics a little more than called for. Now, let me refer to the uncharitable remarks of the member that this government is a government of indecision. The indecision to which he has chosen to refer to does not relate to this government, which has just taken 48 hours to implement the recommendations of a board appointed not by this government but by the previous government. So, I am at a loss to comprehend how he is justified in terming this most expectations actions as indecision. The present position is that the stalemate has been created by the withdrawal of the representatives of employers. It was pointed out here that the employers challenged the independent character of these members who had been nominated on the board as independent members. They did not challenge the independent character of those members when the interim report was presented. Very often, the employers have taken up such matters to courts of law. So, we tried to explore all possible ways of selecting a way out of this stalemate, which would be less vulnerable. I think I have covered the important points.